You were never meant to beg for worth. You were meant to claim it. Welcome to today's episode of Ascendra. And today, we'll talk about the chains of validation. For years, I lived in chains. Not the kind you could see. Not the kind that made a sound when they were dragged across the floor. No, these chains were silent, invisible, but they were just as heavy. I did everything right. I spoke the way they liked, dressed the way they approved, achieved what they expected. I learned to shrink myself into the version of me they wanted to see. And for a fleeting moment, their smiles felt like warmth, their nods like acceptance. But it never lasted. The praise would come one day and vanish the next. I became addicted to their approval. But no matter how much I gave, it was never enough. Then, the worst thing happened. Silence. No applause, no validation, no recognition. I shattered. Because without their approval, who was I? I stood in front of a mirror, searching for something, anything, behind my own eyes. And that's when I saw it. A stranger. A hollow reflection of what they wanted me to be. And in that moment, I realized something that made my stomach sink. I've spent my whole life proving myself to people who don't even see me. The weight of it crushed me, but only for a second. Because something deeper awakened, a quiet, powerful voice I had silenced for years. Enough. I was done. Done seeking, done pleasing, done begging. I did not need their approval to exist. I did not need permission to be me. So I asked myself a different question. What if instead of chasing validation, I gave it to myself? At first, it felt unnatural. The voice of doubt whispered, "You can't just decide if you're enough." But I could, and I did. I started small, praising my own efforts, acknowledging my own wins, letting myself feel worthy without waiting for someone else to say it. And slowly, everything changed. When I stopped chasing approval, I stopped fearing rejection. When I stopped begging for acceptance, I started choosing me. For the first time, I stood in my own power. And the more I validated myself, the more my entire perspective shifted. I realized how many people live in the same prison. We are taught to prove ourselves, to earn respect, to be worthy enough to lead, to love, to be noticed. And so, we keep running, seeking, achieving, thinking that one more win, one more approval, one more nod will finally make us feel like enough. But it won't. Because no external validation will ever replace the one thing that truly sets you free. Your own self-respect. I learned that validation isn't something you receive. It is something you own. You don't need permission to be confident. You don't need applause to be worthy. And once you realize that, you'll be unshakable. Because the only validation that ever truly mattered was mine. If you have been searching for approval, stop. You were never meant to ask for your own worth. You were meant to own it. Join Ascendra today and start walking in your power. Ascendra, rise, lead, conquer.